Yo, what is up, y'all? My name is Devin, and today I'm going to be getting into when to decrease your calories when you're dieting without ruining your training performance, without crash dieting yourself, and realistically how to get the best physique possible from a visual standpoint. Before I get into that, if you are new here, new and not subscribed, definitely go ahead and press subscribe. We're shooting for 20K. And if you are interested in one-on-one coaching, a custom meal plan, or a custom training plan, feel free to check out my website. It's going to be linked down below. That website link also includes my high protein cookbook, Healthy Doesn't Suck, as well as my training plan, Mask Made Simple. There are a couple of things that I have learned after around 7 years of training. I would say the past 4 or 5 years have been a little bit more intense with my training, and I am going to be competing later on this year. Knock on wood, don't let me get injured or anything like that. Holy crap. I've worked with over hundreds of trans guys. Trans mask people know this is not an ad. I say all this to say that everybody's body is different. And you hear that, people say that a lot, but I can't stress how much that is true, right? Some people do need a hard caloric pull in order to have some response for fat loss, but I will say that most people respond best to a slow and gradual reduction of calories. You know, we have protein, carbs, and fat. Which macronutrient should be reduced really depends on you. Generally speaking, there are a few things that every single person, whether you're on testosterone, whether you're pre-T or you don't even care to be on T, we do have to set a baseline of how you're going to be tracking your progress. How do you even know if you need to decrease your calories if you're not tracking your progress consistently? So there are a few metrics that I always ask my clients to present me and metrics that I account for myself. The first thing is obviously going to be scale weight. Now, if you're someone who has a history of, negative feelings around scale weight, is it the end of the world if you don't use a scale? No, but if you can get on a scale, it just makes things a hell of a lot easier, okay? So realistically, you should be weighing in 1 time a week at least. And when you are weighing in, make sure that's fasted. So before you have anything to drink and anything to eat. One little caveat to keep in mind when it comes to your weight is if you're bloated, if you had a high volume meal, if you haven't been able to go number 2, if you drink a ton of water, anything like that, that can impact your weight. I have some clients who have bowel movement issues. We get their gut health on track and all of a sudden it looks like they lost 5 pounds. Well, did they necessarily lose 5 pounds because they were dieting so hard? No, they lost 5 pounds because they can actually take a dump. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you can weigh in, more than once a week, that would be more ideal. Keep in mind, if you're weighing in only once a week, that's just a snapshot in time. I personally weigh in every single day and then I take my weekly average, and that is the most realistic way to get, your true weigh-in for the week. Another thing that you can look at as a source of progress are measurements. I do suggest measuring your arms, your thighs, and your waist, right? Waist 2 inches above the belly button. Sometimes it takes 6 months of dieting to truly see a change, but maybe the scale is moving down, or maybe your measurements are moving down, right? Maybe your waist has gotten smaller. So that's another piece of information that you can use to assess whether or not you are making progress. Checking pictures, taking pictures of your physique is going to be a very, very, very amazing way to see progress. Now, I do suggest taking pictures once a week, if not every other week. And if you fear you're going to become obsessed, once a month is totally cool. A couple of ground rules for those check-in pictures: make sure that you're taking them in the same lighting every time. Don't do what I see some people on social media doing, only taking check-in pictures with the lighting like this, because yes, you're going to look gnarly every time, but unfortunately that's not the most accurate representation of your physique. Also, make sure that you are having your camera at the same angle every time. If one day the camera is super low and then for your next check-in the camera super high, you're never really going to see what you're truly working with. So same camera angle every time. At around your waist level should be pretty fine, okay? Now that you know how to track your progress, when should you decrease your calories? The number one ground rule that I suggest for everybody is make sure you're decreasing your calories off of a steady week. And when I say steady week, I mean there's not a ton of variability going on. If you ate off your meal plan, or if you didn't drink enough water, or if you had terrible gut health and terrible digestion for the week, should you be decreasing your calories? No, because in those instances, your calories are not the issue, right? So you want to make sure that when you are decreasing your calories, you've been able to drop nice deuces. You have been steady with your water intake, because if you barely drink any water one day and you drink a shit ton of water the next day, you're going to retain that water, as opposed to having a nice intake of water every single day. Your system is going to be flushing out nice. You're not going to be retaining any water, okay? So avoid binge drinking water, as funny as that sounds. And then ultimately, like I mentioned, if you are not sticking to your meal plan, or if you're not sticking to the macros that you set for yourself, why would you decrease them? You didn't stick to the plan. It doesn't make sense to decrease them. All changes to your food intake need to be made with every box being checked off, okay? If those boxes have not been checked off, don't decrease your calories, because decreasing your calories should be pretty much a final stop. That should be the final thing that you're doing. It shouldn't be the first thing you're doing, right? Always remember that food is energy. When I'm working with people who are in a fat loss phase, decreasing food intake is pretty much the last thing that we do. We'll try to see what's going going on with that energy expenditure? What's going on with that stress, right? Sometimes cortisol, which is your stress hormone, can cause inflammation. It can cause a puffy look. It can cause a higher scale weight. Sometimes if we're having a phantom cycle or a literal cycle, that also comes with bloating, that also comes with inflammation, right? These things are very important to keep in mind, because if you pull your calories too soon, you're not gonna have any energy, period. Your sleep is gonna suck. You're not gonna have energy for training, and you're gonna be like, bro, this dieting shit sucks. I'm not doing it, and I just give up. And then you're gonna be like, I guess I'm bulking again. Or you're just gonna be like, I guess I'm done with being healthy because it just didn't work for me. But if you stick to this guidance, it should work for you. When you're cutting your calories, I don't even like to just use the word calories. I like to use the term macros for most people, because calories is such a broad term, right? Calories are made up of protein, carbs, and fat. That distribution matters. So you should not just be cutting the general scope of calories, right? Are you cutting your protein? Are you cutting your fat? Are you cutting your carbs? These things matter because they dictate your body composition, okay? So if you were to drastically decrease your carbs and your fat intake is super high and your protein intake is moderate, your physique is not gonna look super good, okay? So remember that protein is needed for muscle protein synthesis, but I have found that we don't usually need a shit ton of protein. Even for myself, I have done diets where I was eating 200 plus grams of protein and I just looked like a puffer fish. My digestion was terrible and I was farting terribly bad. My fiance was super pissed off at me because I couldn't stop farting, right? Versus now I'm working with a new person and she has me eating 150 grams of protein on rest days and I've never looked better. Truly, I can see clear lines in my physique. I feel better. My digestion is not all weird and wonky. Just for reference, I weigh 200 pounds right now, okay? So even that 1 gram per pound of body weight, we're not lean body mass. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, I'm 160 pounds, I think I need 180 grams of protein. No, you don't, okay? Fat intake, if you're on testosterone, can be lower. That's the macronutrient that should be lowest of all, right? Whenever we're plateauing with progress, our weight is not moving down, I would say that it does make sense to take a carb cycling approach. So on rest days, on days that you're not training, your energy expenditure is lower, meaning you're burning less calories and therefore you don't need as much calories, period. So typically lower carbs on rest days, higher carbs on training days should help with your nutrient partitioning. Nutrient partitioning is what your body does with your food intake, and it should also help with making sure that your training is still on one, right? A big mistake with decreasing calories is also causing your training performance to suffer. So I like for my clients to be on a high carb diet, unless they have A1C issues. We have to be pretty smart about carb selection and we do have to take a low carb diet, but for most other people, I like to do high carbs because I think the physique really responds well to it. Of course, everyone is different, but just generally speaking. If you're going to pull your calories, say for instance, your body weight has stayed the same for 2 weeks, what I suggest doing, and keep in mind, those 2 weeks you better have been perfectly on plan, okay? What I suggest doing is either reducing your fat intake or reducing your carb intake on rest days, okay? If you're curious on how many grams / how many calories you should cut out, when it comes to decreasing your fat intake, I would say decrease by about 10 grams, okay? 10 grams is gonna be around 90 calories, almost 100 calories, and that should be a nice amount to facilitate change. Whenever I'm dieting, and for my clients that I coach, I pretty much never cut calories by more than 100 per week. So when you're decreasing your carbs, you can decrease by 25 grams of carbs because that's equal to 100 calories. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but one of the biggest things that we're avoiding when dieting is becoming a zombie, because that's when you just give up. So slow and steady does indeed win the race. Now, realistically, the duration of how long you're dieting depends from person to person. For some of us who have been thicker for a longer time and you have, grander goals of fat loss, your diet can last years, it can last months, it can last however long you see fit for, achieving your goal physique, but understand that you can take diet breaks. So something that I implement for my clients often are maintenance periods. This is a lifestyle journey. We will have periods, whether that be for holidays or whether that be for summer. We have a lot of vacations going on where we're not specifically looking for fat loss, or more so in a maintenance phase. So for those phases, I would typically bring carbs up a little bit. This helps with cravings and this also helps with training, right? When you're chronically dieting, your thyroid can become a little bit fatigued. Your TSH can go down, your T3 can go down. That's gonna be bad for fat loss. So having diet breaks, especially if you feel like, damn bro, like I really am starving, like my stomach is eating itself, having a planned out maintenance phase, not saying, oh, I'm gonna binge now, I'm gonna go to Five Guys, this is my maintenance phase. phase, like that's totally unproductive. Having a phase where you're eating the same exact foods, you're just bumping the total volume up a little bit, is gonna be very productive. So if you're having 100 grams of salmon and 200 grams of rice, and that's causing you to lose weight, we'll bump you up to 150 salmon, 250 rice. Okay, same food, that food is easily digestible, we know it works for you, but now your body weight is holding, your training is doing better, you just feel all around better mindset-wise in your relationship with food as well, and we're getting the job done. That's not something that I really understood when I first started dieting. Like the first intense cut I did, I just cut for 4 months straight, just hard as hell, just losing 1 pound to 2 pounds per week. I didn't know what being flat was, I didn't know what being full was, I didn't know what refeeds were, I didn't know what diet breaks were. I was just gunning it, bro. And honestly, that ruined my relationship with food as well. Like I remember I went on a trip to see Paramore. Oh my God. And I binged for like 2 days straight, son. Like I had Ben and Jerry's, I had donuts, I had pizza, I had wings. Like I was just binging because I had been dieting so hard. My abs were nice and blocky. Like everybody was gassing me up on Instagram, and I just went absolutely ham, bro. Like I went in a disgusting amount. And if I had the knowledge of refeeds and diet breaks and deloads and stuff like that, I would not have, had such disgustingly intense cravings. So when you know better, you do better. And this is something that I've learned through experience. This is something that I've learned through various mentorships and ultimately through research and just working with other people. I truly pride myself on, the information that I share here with y'all. It always comes from a place of experience and wanting to make sure that we're building the best habits we possibly can, because being AFAB and just trans in general, our bodies feel almost cursed, right? It almost feels like a burden to be trans and to be attractive. Oh my God, all this work I have to do, right? So I hope that you guys did find this video helpful. If you did, please go ahead and like, share with a homie who may find it helpful as well. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram. We are shooting for 40K there. We're getting a little bit close. It's gonna be linked down below. And like I always say, Devin loves you, Devin's a Don, and Devin is out of here, boy.